You are listening to River West Radio on WXRW LP 104.1 FM Milwaukee. Support for this program comes from Collectivo Coffee, hosting Milwaukee Makers Market, third Sundays May through September at Collectivo Bayview. Milwaukee Makers Market features more than 30 local art, craft, and design vendors. More info is at collectivocoffee.com. A little bit of a rough start. We had the pre-fader on the phone still rolling. So, Gabe, thanks for calling in. And if you're wondering who that is in the Twitter photo, that is Rabbi. Rabbi, our man. We have a speaker system outside, too, and my man just heard it. There he is. Thanks for allowing us your presence in that photograph. So that was a Rabbi up on the air there. You can check that out at More the Scarier on Twitter. And thanks to our listeners for listening in. If you're listening live, it is a beautiful evening in Milwaukee, and we're in River West, and people are definitely out and about on this lovely evening. We have a window seat, so we get to see all the good stuff, and indeed we do. It's a wild ride, this thing called life. You never know what's going to happen, and, for good, bad, indifferent, all of that kind of stuff. And I just want to say for those people who say what comes around and goes around, that is completely false. That's negative hippie stuff or whatever. That's no good, because people get away with murder all the time, or good people get unrecognized, all of that stuff. So all of that stuff is inconsequential voodoo. It's just a saying that is malevolent in intent, and I don't know, I had that swimming around in my head, and I just wanted to identify that factor. So what comes around definitely does not go around. And you can pluck coincidences all you want, aligning dates. This happened because that happened because this happened. No, not really. There are some wild coincidences, and they can happen within minutes. You could be talking to someone, and all of a sudden, at that right moment, this email comes in, and it's like a torpedo into the ship, and, well, that's the way it goes, man. Definitely. And again, we want to thank Gabe Van Handel, who is our learned cinematic scholar, and he's good enough to grace us with his presence momentarily. I want to say congratulations to the Oriental Theater 90th anniversary, which was celebrated on last night, which is Sunday night. And we were treated to a very fine showing of Casablanca. I've been seeing that film for like the last 35 years, and it's rich in its characterizations, and the tapestry of its story is magnificent. I mean, that is a template for solid screenplay writing, because there's setups, payoffs. It just runs the gamut of good storytelling, and again, elaborate, or defined characterizations. Each one has an immediate presence that is known. There's no beating around the bush from Mr. Borchardt to Miss Bergman, and Mr. Greenstreet, Mr. Laurie, Conrad Veidt, all of that. Just excellent on down the line. And came out in 1942, won Best Picture, based on a play, Everybody Comes to Rick's, I believe. So it was about a full house, 1,000 people or whatever the number is. It's a big theater. Just a great time. They had a cake. And it was a wonderful evening, and got parking, man, because I know the east side, and just parking right across the street. There's this prime spot that was available. I know that they had no parking signs, but that was from the fest the night before, so those were no longer in effect. Scared some people off. Those in the know parked as they should. And speaking of parking, someone's taking off in front of me, and that would be a real good place to park the vehicle. But since I'm on the air and running the board, the car is going to stay where it is for now. Also got a return visit to Antoniani's La Notte, The Night. Great stuff, which followed The Adventure, La Ventura, which will bring me back to a return to L'Eclipse, The Eclipse, the stark black and white alienation that Antonioni provides in that trilogy is magnificent. Also got to see Jim Jarmusch's Patterson, which is it's a constrained effort. I mean, it's not his more ambitious compositions that he's known for. I'm talking cinematographically, or whatever. The way it's shot, the way it's photographed. I'm not going to stumble around in my syllables tonight if I can help it. Yeah, Stranger Than Paradise, Permanent Vacation, Down by Law, Mystery Train, etc., 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 all the way up to Patterson. I think I missed one along the way, and I believe that is Night on Earth, but I do have a widescreen copy of it on VHS. So, yeah, no, I've hit coffee and cigarettes and all of that stuff. There's our man, Tom, dutifully showing up, man of great ambition. He admires Milwaukee greatly, and he keeps in tune with all of the stuff happening around here, the buildings being built, the events occurring. Isn't that right, Tom? Yes, it is. He gives the thumbs up. So yeah, there's first thing I do in the morning after thinking deeply about life is to read before the chaos of life begins. And one of those books is by it's about John Michael Hayes and his collaboration with Hitchcock on some of his a string of his 50s films. I know that that probably would include Rear Window, To Catch a Thief, The Trouble with Harry, because I know by the time we hit North by Northwest, it's written with Ernest Lehman. But it's an engaging book, and what I love about it, is the understanding of life, that a lot of these discussions took place over fine wine, cigars, elaborate dinners, and intellectual discussions. So that totally rocks. Sarah Lou, your hair looks great. She has taken it out of kind of like her ponytail, and it is very, very long, and it looks very, very beautiful. There you go. We have, like I said, the window so we can see out, and that's just the deal. So anyway, it's called Writing with Hitchcock, and it's a fabulous morning, summertime book. And again, there's nothing like working together with someone in cohesion to get meaningful things done that actually contribute, substantiate, and build upon your life instead of idle socialization, which I can't take. It's a soul killer. Everyone's different. Everyone's on a different frequency. Everyone's from a different planet, and we merge by chance or design in time, and then we go our ways and come back again, and so on and so forth. So that, again, I wanted to lead somewhere. Oh, at night I read Julia Phillips, You'll Never Eat Lunch in This Town Again. Her experiences as a producer began with her husband Michael Phillips, and they kind of split the difference. Michael went to produce Taxi Driver. She went on to produce Close Encounters. So it is very engaging on summer evenings to read about her involvement with the elaborate production of Close Encounters. So that's real good stuff. And again, in the morning, we're hitting Writing with Hitchcock, John Michael Hayes' collaboration with Hitchcock to design these stories, and it's really good. It's really good stuff. And on Sunday, there was a business meeting, and what I began to understand was that all of this mindless agreeing with people, all this feigning of interest in their ideas and projects is a soul killer. I appreciate everything, the goodness and all of that stuff, but there's just zero interest in other people's ideas, complete apathy. It's a dull amusement. So how can this then be turned useful and contribute successfully to the narrative? Well, you say, you know what? We'll meet. It'll be great because we're human beings. There'll be a cheeseburger. There'll be ginger ale. And there will be the notebook. Rabbi, keep the faith, man, and remain strong. That's your man Tom right there. Two souls silently, not a darn thing to say. He goes his way. All right. Okay. So anyway, no, great people. Great people. We're all human beings. We all love each other, all of that kind of stuff. But we all have, some of us have missions, others it's just like this existential romp, which is great too, but never the twain shall meet. And they shouldn't, because you could end up just killing each other's, reason to live. One wants to go to Summerfest and see the Brewers. The other one wants to write the great American novel. They do not coalesce. They never have and never will. So, but we can all, be amicable and friends about the whole thing. But I'll tell you one thing, man, life is so short, so precious. I'm not going down that route, man. I've got my stuff to write, the things to do, the muses, the challenges, the thises and the that's. So, again, great people all along the way. Just ain't down with any of it at all, And that's what makes life wonderful, is to stay focused. And I always notice that the successful people always have this air of contentment, like it's always so easy. That's because they disallow for digressions. Everything is a tributary into the narrative, which is a great thing. That's how you get the job done. And then in turn, you can help others. It's like American Airlines tells you, man, don't be putting on no one else's air mask. Put on your own so you're competent, you're coherent, and you can dutifully and, rightfully help other people out. Because, if you're a mess, if your house ain't clean, well, what are you doing cleaning someone else's, man? So that's what we're saying, is be strong so you can be strong with others, man. And that's really, really good stuff. And there's just a lot of great people out there, and you want to make sure that keeps going, man, for sure, definitely. And Gabe, you've been patient beyond words, man. So we're going to let you loose. We're probably talking within, I wouldn't say seconds because that would be misleading. I would say within, 120 seconds probably. And again, because I always know that you have a lot to offer and so on and so forth. So it is a wonderful life. Jimmy Stewart let us know that, and we continue to believe and always will, and we will enact that sentiment right to the very end. To be good, to be kind, to be strong, all of that stuff. Keep your back straight. Don't put pressure on your spine, because that will, now, what goes around comes around will happen in that instance. So keep your back straight. Definitely. So that's how the body's physiology just keeps rocking, man. Okay, this could go on forever, but having a modicum of self-control, it won't. And Gabe, I think we're about to, again, I just want to say, all the listeners that are totally cool, that listen in, it's mega appreciated. Really, thank you so much for listening. Gabe, this is crazy. I got my forefinger and my thumb on the phone fader, which it will start to ascend. My man, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, you're here somewhere. Gee whiz. Let's see. Are you there, Gabe?
Gee whizzles.
Oh, now, yep. Gotcha, dude.
Gee whizzles. Gee wiggles.
Hey,
Mark.
So welcome, my man. My man.
Oh, beyond welcome. Beyond welcome. I feel like I've arrived. Yeah, Mark. It's there's just there's no value that can be put on. I actually have to agree with you this week on weeding out the pointless interactions, the meaningless. Some weeks I just think, well, okay, monotony isn't so bad. Sometimes having to deal with ordinary people, things that don't have anything to do
with Mary Tyler Moore,
your heart in your way. More or less, Mark, I have to deal with.
You got to deal with a lot.
Nothing that most people that work a day job and create at the same time, and like have like, whether they're artists or musicians or filmmakers or sculptors, but they have a day job. There's a lot of monotony that they have to deal with.
Meaning you.
Throughout the day.
And congratulations for staying in that fight.
Well, but it doesn't have to be monotonous is the thing, is that's a choice of perspective. But some weeks it is, and some weeks it isn't. It just depends on the perspective of how you look at having to do things that have nothing to do with what you want to do. Like, let's say, like, whether it's like for me, it's like watching films and watching, the great works of art, and going to museums, going to lectures, listening to NPR, reading, really academic journals, reading some of the great film academia. But if that's all I really wanted to do, I wouldn't end up spending time with my family, and I wouldn't have the day job and met the people that I've met and acquired the skills that I've met that have, yes, nothing to do with writing scripts and have nothing to do with working on films, or have nothing to do with any of that stuff. But ultimately, what I've learned from having to make a living at things that I don't necessarily want to do for the rest of my life, those skills are invaluable at teaching me things that I didn't know, that just things that were the part of the human experience, of just that I don't necessarily think like, oh, that's what's defined my life, that's what's made life worth living. But they've taught me things that, had I been born into a lot of money, or had I been born into privilege, or had I not had to work for those things, I really wouldn't have anything to say.
Can I make a comment on that?
Sure.
Tom says no. He's very witty. Oh, man. You know what? I don't buy into any of that stuff, because if you were born, unless you fell on your head, there's people that they just inherit. I never get that. Is someone living like in a box? Whether you have money, you don't have money, whether you work in a coal mine or a poet, you experience the same amount of life. I've been in the factory, the farm field, redneck foremen below minimum wage, sweating 10 hours a day in a factory, the military, all that stuff. It doesn't matter, dude. If I was born with $10 million, I'd have to say I didn't learn nothing more or less. I've encountered thousands of people, hundreds of circumstances.
What I'm saying, Mark, what I'm getting at is that to say, like, well, the interactions of, like, other people's art or other people's work is, like, not interesting because it isn't mine. Like, I agree. There's some weeks when I listen to these monologues in the beginning and I think, that's fair. It isn't your stuff, so who cares?
Well, yeah, that's not what I mean, Gabe. What I'm saying is that everyone has a life, and everyone has to be respected. And when you're inundated with other people's lives, there's got to be a stop to that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And the smart people know how to control that. Well, Olivia, have a good night, man. You did a great job.
Most people do, though.
So it's like I say. What I don't get into, Gabe, though, is that we're all humans, and to put other people down because they have money or they don't have money. You basically have the same experience in life, and a lot of the well-to-do people, you could have a Ted Kennedy or whatever that contribute very successfully to other people's life because of the situation that he was in, and he has insights that we'll never have being of privilege, because he's working at levels with people who have control of systems and that we don't, who do good, for the people on a general level.
Mm-hmm. I'll agree with that. What I'm saying is that I wouldn't have met the people that I met. And the people that I met in the situations that I was in, when I was like, oh, well, why do I, oh man, I don't want to deal with this. I'd like, oh man, like this is just boring, or this is like, I've met a lot of people who don't, like, I've met a number of artists who had to have day jobs or had to like go through, and they had to go through their day-to-day operation. They had to go through their lives, and they had to take care of business, and they were really resentful about having to deal with this sort of like having a job or having this sort of day-to-day affair.
Well, then why didn't they do something about it? I laughed my way through all of that stuff. I laughed my way through all of that stuff.
Well, why be miserable and why be upset about your situation when literally you have every opportunity to be happy or be insightful or be joyful with every minute of your life, no matter what you're doing?
Well, I don't have the energy to be joyful every minute. Do you?
But you don't have to be joyful, but you can take something out.
That'd be hard, man.
You can live fully all the time, and yes, not stealing and not lying and choosing to do your best in just a basic. Everyone's personal best is completely different. There are some people that lie, like you said, lie, cheat, and steal every minute of every day, get away with it. Technically, like in terms of like a Sunday school version of like, did they get caught by the law and prosecuted in a court of law? No. So they got away with it. But what kind of a life did they live? Well, I'm sure they probably had plenty of moral demons and a lot of stuff that was going through their head. Some people are psychotic and have killed people and sleep perfectly fine at night. And that is like a one in a several hundred. There are people that kill other people or that maim and rape and torture and do all sorts of awful stuff and sleep perfectly well at night and wake up great, feeling refreshed every day. And I don't personally understand that, but I don't have to because it's not my life. It's not my experience. So I don't have to question it. I don't have to live with those kind of demons. But this week, when I was thinking about the choices that I had to make of the type of people that I want to spend time with, the engagements, what kind of films do I want to watch? What kind of books do I want to read? What kind of discussions and conversations do I want to have? And what kind of art do I want my life to, and what kind of an impact do I want to have on my family? Do I want to be remembered as someone who didn't have time for my family because I was too busy caring about what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it, or do I want to be remembered as someone who ultimately put my own interests and stuff second because I did have time for them? And the dividing line between those choices that I've made in my life have sometimes been incredibly selfish and at other times incredibly caring and giving.
Yeah, but dude, can't you split the difference successfully?
Yeah, but ultimately, if life was that easy, what would be the point? I wouldn't care.
Well, no, dude, my man, I have news for you. Life is not that easy. There's a lot of challenges, man.
Of course there is. That's
so.
The whole point.
I mean, to make right. So I mean, all this melodramatic decision making. It's like, look, man, you got 24 hours a day. I think everything can be successfully accomplished.
You usually can, but fitting a 40 to 50 hour work week into it makes it pretty tricky sometimes.
Right. Well, then you got to learn how to, you got to think about how you spend your, how many hours are there in a week? 144? Is that 7 times 24? What is that? 7 times 20, 7 times 4, 20, 148, something like that. So that's a lot of hours. You got to sleep 8.
So you got
56,
sleep. You got to sleep every day, so you got to count. Well, am I spending too much time sleeping? How much time am I spending eating? How much time am I spending working out? How much time am I spending traveling from one place to another? How much time am I spending doing maintenance? And those things are all fine and good because it's like the maintenance of life takes time. And ultimately, if the maintenance of life makes you miserable, probably everything's going to make you miserable. With a lot of people, there's a lot of people out there who can't stand doing the give and take of life, screwing in, okay, the door is up, we got the door frame up, we got the door in, God, I couldn't, just putting every screw in, every notch, every nook, measuring every inch. It doesn't have to be torturous. It can be really fun. The monotony of life can be extremely enlightening, extremely. It doesn't have to be monotonous either. I use the word monotony as a base term. It doesn't have to be. And that's what this week was all about, it was really nice to learn that that on the one hand there are monotony.
Wait, so you're dealing with some serious monotony is what I'm hearing.
Not anymore. I've made some, they're just...
My mouth dropped that what announcement was just about to be made.
You just got to clean house sometimes. You just got to go, well, this doesn't have to be monotonous if I don't want it to be. And who cares, if it is? Well, let's change it. What's the point in complaining about this? Let's change this. So I, just
congratulations, my man.
If this isn't good enough, change it. So I changed it. There's a fair amount of stuff that's just, perspective of if this is not good enough for personal levels of what am I doing with my life, what am I spending my time with, being resentful about it or being upset about it or having to look down at other people. You're looking down if you're looking down at all, whether it's on yourself or other people. You're still looking down. You're not looking up. You're not looking at the horizon. You're just looking at the space in front of you if you're looking down at people. You're looking at a small area.
Yeah, well, let me ask you all this, Gabe. Where's this coming from now? I mean, what place are you in? I mean, what's happening here?
Well, I had to clean out some space.
Okay.
I had to clean out some space in what I was spending my time doing, and I had to think.
Oh, you caught yourself. You caught yourself red-handed. We're in on the bust right now.
What's meaningful? What is worth doing? And ultimately, I realized that I had to make some more space for spending time with people. Instead of just engaging in what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it, it's like.
Did you fall into the screen like Videodrome?
Well, no, I came out of the screen because
that's what I meant. That's what I meant, my man. You were in the screen, my man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suspected as much.
You'd spend too much time doing what you want to do when you want to do it, and ultimately don't be surprised when you become, a monster.
Don't be surprised when you become a multimillionaire with a harem.
Well, that's fine too, but ultimately that's what it takes. If that's what it takes to get there, you can count me out.
Right. Well, dude, there's you can do it with a legal pen and a legal pad, man. You don't have to fall into the trap of ones and zeros.
Well, and worrying about like throughout most of the time that I've spent writing, you worry about this or I've worried. I don't know about anyone else, but you worry about this, you worry about that, and ultimately worrying about it and being obsessed about it or being terrified. Going into that terror zone, just ultimately, for me, that's been self-sabotage because then, some stuff gets done, but ultimately I end up procrastinating more because the avoidance of this terror zone basically ensures that it exists. And instead of been I lost my phone a few weeks ago, my phone broke for no reason, and instead of getting really mad about it and being like, oh man, the world's unfair, this is unfair, or that's
the world's indifferent, it doesn't care.
Or getting mad about it, who cares? The project is still there. There's notepads and legal pads, and there's all this means to write. The finished product is still there, and getting to the project, because I get most of my writing done on on my on various devices to get to my computer crashed and broke down, and that had a lot of backed up files.
And I'm sorry to hear that, Gabe.
And it just happens, and I was really really sad about that. But I said, well, I put in a good number of years, and my phone broke and wouldn't take a charge. And I said, well, that's really unfortunate because I keep my project online on my Gmail folder. And I said, well, you know what, whatever, it's still going to be there, and maybe taking a break from some of this writing for a while actually gives me some time to get caught up on some movies. And then I realized, well, maybe diving into all this technology, whether it's creating or whether it's assessing the work of others all the time, it makes me really happy. And it keeps me, alive in that spirit of creating and assessing. For me, it's like a 50-50 of assessing the work of others critically and analytically and also creating my own material. And when one gets out of balance of the other, it's it's just out of whack. It has to be kind of like a 50-50. But ultimately, this level of monotony of like I've talked about this before, there's a lot of media out there that does not need to be consumed. There's a lot of it that is good that a lot of people would find monotonous or man, this is a waste of time. And there's a lot of stuff that I find abhorrent, like the fact that the $100,000 pyramid is back on TV, and just things that I see in past.
See, man, you're into lands, man. I wouldn't even dare set my feet in. I mean, these are like missives from the unknown world, but it's what. But thank you, Gabe, for going out there and being on the front lines with this stuff. Yeah,
it's the thing is, Mark, is you can't help it.
You're in there.
Well, I didn't watch, I couldn't watch more than 25 seconds, but
they got you.
Things like there's game shows and I was walking through someone's living room. That's what I mean. I wasn't like sitting down and doing explorations. I was walking past the television, going from point A to point B physically for 25 seconds, and I looked over and stopped just to observe as like an archaeologist and see that is an updated version of the $100,000 pyramid game show that is on television, on a main network, on a broadcast main network, being broadcast to the world, and there's millions of people watching this right now. The same show that was on in the 70s being broadcast right now, and there's just millions of people tuning in to the $100,000 pyramid, a new episode. And I had to think, like, well, you know what? What's wrong with that, though? That's fine. It's not my life. That's not what I'm choosing.
It was for 25 seconds.
But even if it was, I was just observing because I had no idea that things like that existed.
Man, you got caught in the crossfire.
Well, but it's, but at least I know now. It gave me I'll tell you, because
you got to step quicker past that TV.
While I was at work, it gave me a really entertaining series of thoughts for about 4 hours when I might have just been thinking about my bills or my finances or my child support or my something else that, just like the usual stream of thoughts that go through my head while I'm chopping vegetables at work. And instead, I thought about the history of game shows the other day for about 4 hours while I was in the back.
Got video droned.
So it was a real interesting psychedelic experience. This 25 seconds of
keep the fates off. Thank you.
Man, that's just like this whole game show led to like thinking about other game shows and like what is a game show, and oh man, was that entertaining. Sometimes.
Wait, you thought about that for 4 hours?
Well, I thought about all sorts of other stuff that really entertained me for 4 hours. I thought about the history of the Game Show Network, and I thought about the history of game shows in the 1970s and game show hosts and how much time must have been spent people actually watching game shows and how long Wheel of Fortune's been on TV. Just like basic, like I was doing math. I was doing a lot of math in my head and trying to even compute possible numbers in the billions of like advertising dollars that had been spent on like Wheel of Fortune and stuff like that. Just real entertaining, insane numbers of like the amount of energy of like the minds that have been spent watching Wheel of Fortune. Like the amount of hours of Wheel of Fortune being broadcast, or the amount of hours of reruns of the $64,000 pyramid. And 25 seconds of watching a game show led me to thinking about all these other game shows. It was but ultimately what it did was the next day at work, it provided a huge, huge relief of entertainment at work, where I was laughing out loud. I was thinking about, the history of television and entertainment and how bad most of it really is and worthless. I
disagree. I think it's all good, almost all good.
But a lot of TV is...
because that's why you get attracted to it, because it is good. It's like a drug. People do it because it makes them feel good.
It feels good.
Those are very, very...
It feels good.
Very smart people making those television shows. It takes a lot of talent, great actors, great craftsmanship. So that it's not that things are bad. It's because they're good, but it's like a kid in a candy store, like I say, man, running out on the street without control, clutching his gut, crying for mommy because there's no restraint with the candy. So it's these things are good, and you must be restrained from the good for the better. That's why they tell you to eat your fruits and vegetables, my man.
It is a very
freak out at that candy store.
Word that's open to a lot of interpretations, and depending on the context of that word, the definition is going to change in variance of. Are we talking in a technical sense, like yes, the product is made good from the sense of the producer's standpoint, the consumer's standpoint, or the nutritionist, the doctor, the mental health practitioner, or the person who does not watch a lot of TV, which you would fall into that category, as you state almost every week on the show that you don't watch TV very much, which is very good.
Oh, I don't watch it at all.
You don't watch TV. So I would say on that standpoint, not watching television.
My man said the Packers.
It changes your perspective. commercials especially, listening even to commercials, even if you just hit mute while commercials come on. If you watch broadcast television, which I don't anymore, I don't have broadcast TV in my house. But
you've got something else.
Well, yeah, I use a streaming device, of course. There's numerous documentaries that Netflix has that like Five Came Back, which was an invaluable, brilliant piece of film history and a great, entertaining documentary, one of the best documentaries I've seen in years, which Netflix produced and distributed. Had I not had a Netflix subscription, I would have probably had to steal that copy.
No, you wouldn't. You would have rightfully borrowed it from your local library.
I don't think it's out.
It will be.
Well, Netflix doesn't distribute their content on DVD. It's an exclusive service. But I'm not too worried about that because it's a small service, and the fact that it offers a lot of movies into my life, it brings a lot of good into my life. I'm using that word "good" again.
It's like the gospel.
I think it's a real minor thing to add in because who cares really? It's Netflix. It's real minor. Some months I barely use the service. Some months it's like it's there ubiquitously. It's there. It's on every night. It just depends. It floats and it ebbs and it flows. Sometimes that service really offers up a nonstop stream of brilliant, poignant, thoughtful films, documentaries, and investigative journalism that is unparalleled except maybe by HBO and the BBC. In terms of television programming, television-style programming. Ava DuVernay's brilliant documentary, The 13th, from last year, which Netflix produced and unobtrusively produced, which was the New York Times ran a huge article about that. I talked about that on the show months ago, about how Netflix is this place that producers and directors are swarming to because of their reputation for creating a project or allowing a producer or director to come in with the concept with the project, or the people at Netflix brainstorm a project and they say, hey, we were looking to do something about civil rights. Maybe have you been thinking, is there a film, a fictional film or a book or a project? Well, by chance, actually, yeah, I've been wanting to develop a project over at Warner Brothers, but we can't seem to get we can't seem to get off the ground with it. And well, I'll tell you what, why don't we see what we can come up with? Come to us with a pitch. Let's see what we can do. Producer, director comes to Netflix with said pitch. Great. Here's the money. Develop it. Your production company or our production company seems to be perfectly adept and on the same page. Literally, the finished product arrives. No calls from the producers at Netflix. No interference. Nobody's on set. No one shows up. No one has this legal pad or like this checklist of like, well, here's what we think you should do. Well, we're glad that your project is that you had all these nice ideas for your project. Here's what we're actually going to make the project about. That bafflingly is what they talked about in this article, that never happens. And the producers and the directors at first, and now that they're known for this, that's why directors are swarming to Netflix, is because of the fact that executive producer or that associate producer with the checklist doesn't show up on set to tell them what kind of film they're going to make. The finished product goes to the producer or goes to the heads at Netflix. They show them the finished or the rough cut project. Usually, what happens then too is that the executive producers or the vice president, the executive in charge of the project or whatever, usually watches the film in the screening room and then makes a bunch of like, I don't like this, we don't like that, we think that this is a bad decision, we think if you added this, maybe added a talking lamp and, maybe had some, maybe a talking school bus character. There's usually something along that lines that they add in, take this out. By and large, that does not mostly happen at Netflix because what they want, they've been developing original content that they know that hiring radical, creative, visionary filmmakers that have their own ideas, that know how to make their own films, that don't need producer interference, that don't need studio head interference from people that ultimately are businessmen and not creative and not artists. They don't need that interference, and that ultimately makes a lesser product usually. So they're in the business of they want people to subscribe to their service to see original content that they want, that ultimately is different. The way to get different content is to allow artists to create their own content. Honestly, if you would have told me 5 years ago that Netflix would have been one of the leaders in creating daring original documentaries and potent original miniseries and films and acquiring films at film festivals, I would have said you're nuts. There's no way. Netflix is one of the most useless formats for watching films. It's a service for the masses. It's going to be gone in 10 years. So ultimately, I was very pleased and surprised to be proven completely wrong about that. As you know, will often happen. Like the entertainment industry changes, things change, things come and go, movies come and go, directors come and go, formats come and go. DVD is on its way out, which I love physical media. I love looking at those cases, at the boxes, at the discs themselves, the VHS. I'm not alone with that. I know a lot of people love and adhere and, love their VHS art, their boxes, their collections, their the artwork, the different, I'm looking right now actually at a stack of Charles Bronson VHSs sitting on my table, and, those are worth nothing. Those are worth 10 cents a pop, but man, I'll tell you, just the artwork, the stack of artwork that's sitting there right now, the Charles Bronson faces, the painted Charles Bronson faces, not photoshopped, not not computer program manipulated, but these are actual paintings and pictures that the way that film posters used to be put together. I got these sort of expressionistic Charles Bronsons looking at me.
Yeah, no, there's. I'm going to say something random, and it doesn't need a response, so I'll talk right over it. I just want to say something random. At Magician's House. That's it. Doesn't mean anything. It's completely abstract from what we're discussing. Just thought I would put it out there. Thankful for the listenership. VHS. It's everywhere. DVDs are everywhere. I mean, they're nonstop. They're going to exist long past you and I, dude.
Yeah, what I like about those is that, the physical media of it, the physicality of it, the fact, the analogness of it.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere. You're absolutely right, Mark. There's going to be stacks of those, boxes of those anywhere.
I'm looking at them right now, dude.
That's good stuff. I watched another documentary last night. I hadn't watched a film for a while, for a few days this week, and spent some time getting caught up on some books and some reading and some writing and some notes and some other stuff in my free time when I was done with work. And finally, last night I said, wow, man, I had a little chunk of free time with a friend of mine, and I said, well, I got to get caught up on some stuff for the show. And I decided to watch 2 movies back to back and just hunker in. And I had finished earlier in the week De Palma, the documentary about Brian De Palma, which
I look forward to seeing that. Did you enjoy that,
Mark? That's why I tried to call you the other day. It is just as just straightforward, entertaining, and as delicious as I was hoping it was going to be, as I knew it was going to be. Man, Brian De Palma talking about Brian De Palma, things like that just do not get better. And the person that I was with when I watched it too, this was in the beginning, the earlier part of last week. I think I watched it last Monday night, and this person I was with was just doesn't know who Brian De Palma is, and that's who cares? But just the name De Palma, watching it, and it just goes down film by film by film. Just standard biopic about the history, where he came from, how he came into the life of art and filmmaking and storytelling, very much like any standard biography. But hearing Brian De Palma talk about this in his own words, and the fact that there's minimal filmmaking interference, standard archive use of photographs and footage and home movies and stuff like that, and then the archival, very, very direct use of footage from his actual films to illustrate his points is just masterfully done, little interference. And for the most part, most of the film is just one or two shots, medium close-up shots of him sitting in an office chair in a very minimal setting, casually lit, very well spoken, but casually spoken, doesn't have a huge vocabulary, speaks in a very matter-of-fact, straightforward manner and tone, but laughs a lot. And that's the part that I really liked, was that his mannerisms and his casualness about talking about his life's work, and throwing in these little anecdotes about his personal life, the marriages, the children, the settings of where things were shot in relation to his private life and where he lived at the time, where he was living and why he was living in certain places or why he had left the country, the critical reception to certain films, and he answered certain questions certain dilemmas in his career that you would expect. Bonfire of the Vanities. He even addressed the book, The Devil's Candy, which I just thought...
Yeah, Julie Solomon. I read that book. That's a great book.
It is a great book.
I think she's from like the New York Times or Wall Street Journal.
One of those two. I think you're right. She's from a major publication, and was a major writer around that time.
She may have been an art critic for the Times, I think.
I think you're right. I think she switched publications too. She's a very interesting writer, and that book is just nonstop entertainment from the minute you start it to the minute it ends. De Palma, 2016. Highly recommended film for any film lover, anyone that loves reading about filmmakers or watching films about filmmakers, directors. I don't know that it gets more entertaining, for me at least, I don't know that it gets more entertaining than directors talking about directing. Like Mark was talking about the other week about Cassavetes on Cassavetes, Hitchcock Truffaut, this kind of stuff. It just hits a certain illuminating entertainment level that is it's just so captivating. It just touches in on everything. It's like, if you love and live for movies, man, holy buckets. Filmmakers talking about their films and filmmaking in general, but especially their films in retrospect. It's just that is just it. That's where it's at.
And I'll tell you where else it's at. There's a book called Double De Palma on the making of Body Double. I actually one of the few books I've read twice, so it's called Double De Palma.
I'm going to have to read that because Body Double, and he talks about Body Double at length too, which I'm really glad about because Body Double was really maligned at its time, and it's just such a masterful work of entertainment. There's just so much great, really infused filmmaking there. There's just, you've talked about this on the show before, Mark, that you've seen every major film that he's made.
Except for Wise Guys. I'll get that. I'll find that at the library, though. We'll order that up. But no, and for those that are interested in De Palma, before his commercial arrival in the commercial world with 73 Sisters, he did 6 films of very much of interest back in the heyday of the experimental film movement of the 60s. Let me see if my brain works here. Hi, Mom, Greetings, Dionysus in 69, The Wedding, Get to Know Your Rabbit, and Murder a la Mode. Yes. Good job, Mark. Great job, actually. Murder a la Mode, I don't believe I've seen. Thank you. We did a 2-part De Palma series for My Dinner with Gabe back in 2012. And Zav actually, this was around the time when Zav had broken his leg, so he had a lot of time to sit down and watch, extensive movies. And Zav, we're glad you recovered. Absolutely. He watched, I think, 9 films for the Cronenberg series. He watched a bunch of Haneke films for the Michael Haneke series. He watched a bunch of De Palma films for the De Palma series. That was just, that was like movie lovers central back in those My Dinner with Gabe days when we would just, Zav would watch buckets of films. You would watch tons of stuff. We'd all just different experiences with these differing films. And there'd be times where we'd talk about a director's career where
you and I and Zav had all seen different films at different periods of a director's career, but in only certain instances had we seen the same films. I can't remember. There was one filmmaker that all of us had only seen one film in common, but we'd all seen like 4 films of this director, and we, had these varying time periods to talk about. It was, oh man, stuff like that. I just remember when we would pick topics. But
you remember the good old days.
I do remember the good old days, but after you pick about 120 topics, after a few years, that idea of picking
you get to this point where it's random existentialism.
Absolutely. So De Palma, highly recommended. The Wizard of Lies, which is a HBO original. I don't recall if I talked about this on the show or not, but I finally got through that. That's Michelle Pfeiffer and Robert De Niro offering great performances. Barry Levinson directs a very standard but a very well done made for HBO movie about Madoff, Bernie Madoff, and the downfall of the last days of his the illusion of his extremely prolific and grandiose life of supposed wealth that came crashing down when it became apparent that it was actually all the biggest Ponzi scheme in history. Billions upon hundreds of billions of dollars upon billions of dollars. A staggering film, nonetheless, just in the impact of its real life implications. Barry Levinson knows how to direct a good-looking film, and he knows how to direct a made-for-TV biopic very well. He directed You Don't Know Jack about with Al Pacino a number of years ago about Kevorkian, which is a very, very well-made, made-for-TV movie. Well shot, well directed, well edited, and first and foremost, well acted. That's what I have to recommend about HBO original films, not their documentaries, because their documentaries are top notch, but their original films are good in that they bring that high quality of acting, where a sort of a very standard filmmaking, but the acting is just so precise. Usually Emmy Award nominated, if not Emmy Award winning. Game Change was another one from back in 2010, I believe, with Julianne Moore playing Sarah Palin. Just a masterful performance there. But The Wizard of Lies with Robert De Niro and Michelle Pfeiffer, very, very entertaining film, very, very cynical. Thought Crimes, which was a HBO documentary about the cannibal cop from New York, which was about a police officer who had sort of, it seemed, been planning to eat a number of people in some sort of a game of fetishes, but never actually executed the crimes. So what came into play was the fact that these were thought crimes, which sort of fall into the realm of science fiction, and that people were saying that this was the realm of terror, of the government being able to prosecute you for a crime before you've committed it. Granted, there was enough evidence to support the claim that he might have committed it, but that we're getting into Minority Report territory. Now, the film was often quoted as saying that thought crimes are not crimes themselves. We prosecute people on crimes. So there was a number of really interesting talking head interviews in this film. Really, really interesting stuff. A number of weeks ago, I forgot to talk about on the show, I finally got around to finishing Cape Fear, from not the original, which is a very, very good but standard thriller, but Martin Scorsese's less than great 1991 offering, also with Robert De Niro, also starring Nick Nolte, Juliette Lewis, and Jessica Lange. Another one of Scorsese's real minor films that has some really major accomplishments in it. These just really strange, bizarre visual flourishes. I'm not exactly sure why I picked this movie to watch, but I've been thinking about it for decades because I caught the end of it on HBO when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I never saw the rest of the film. So I've always had this sort of unfinished portrait of how did the characters get to this situation, why. And what I came to realize after watching the film was, wow, I should have just forgotten about the film. Who cares? But there's some interesting choices that Scorsese chooses along the way he directs Nolte's character, Jessica Lange's performance. Oddly enough, De Niro is actually the most boring part of the film, even though he chews the scenery so loudly in the film, and has such a wild, vivid performance. Juliette Lewis just commands the screen at times too, but ultimately, most of the film just comes across as pretty annoying and rather minor compared to really audacious and brilliant and just unparalleled work that Scorsese was doing in the 70s and even the 80s with After Hours and The King of Comedy.
Yeah, that's right. Culminating with The Last Temptation.
Ooh, good one, Mark. I mean, and in some ways, Roger Ebert pointed this out too. Mark, you've talked about this, that those films ultimately are just as important as a lot of the stuff that he did in the 70s, because Scorsese refuses to be pinned down into mediocrity. He just is unable to be predicted. What he's going to do next, why he's going to do it, or how he's going to do it. He just will not succumb to a formula. Even a film like Casino, which feels at times like a sort of semi-sequel to Goodfellas, it falls into it's not the same film. It is not a sequel. It has similar elements, but it is delicious entertainment of a completely different order than After Hours, than New York, New York, The King of Comedy. Even a film like Shutter Island, which is what Cape Fear reminded me of just, although Shutter Island is vastly more interesting and intriguing and entertaining than Cape Fear, because it is just much stranger and much more just much more random and bizarre and just weird. Scorsese's decisions as a filmmaker just continue to illuminate the imagination of the hows and the whys, and then afterwards, just man, all I can ever think, even his lesser efforts, is, man, what a master filmmaker. So I guess good stuff, but that's probably, if I had to pick his worst film, I would probably say it's Cape Fear.
Sounds like you got your notebook out, my man.
I do, Mark. I have a new notebook. So you know that 5-subject beast that I've been lugging around for 5 years now. Well, I retired it about 4 or 5 months ago, and I keep it right next to my I keep it next to my in the top left corner of my desk, and it sits there. The only use for it now is to add to the list, the movie list.
Well, congratulations on its long life and its rightful retirement, I assume. Yeah. Now, Gabe, I actually have to call for another retirement, and that is this show, because it is. I have to now say thanks for everything, Gabe. Thank you for everything, and your thank you is going to have to come in at about 17 seconds, dude.
Mark, thank you as always for running the boards, being Mark Borchardt, living your life, doing your best. And Mark, I'll tell you, your best is getting better every week, every day of your life. Thank you. The city of Milwaukee thanks you. The world thanks you. Our listeners thank you.
And I thank you, Gabe, for all of that. And we will be on at this same time next week on WXR WLP 104.1 FM Milwaukee. To hear past episodes, visit riverwestradio.com/shows and click Cinema Fireside.